Ole Miss at Florida. Florida is now 3-0 straight up against the spread in their last 3 home games in the Swamp. They haven't done that since 2019. They've got, you pointed this out, they've got an absolute awesome tandem back there in the backfield with DJ Lagway and Jaden Ball, both freshmen.
True freshmen.
Yeah, both looking really good. Obviously, for the future there, for Billy Napier, he's going to be there one more year at least. You got Badger and DK out there on the ends. For Ole Miss, any update on Henry Parrish, Trey Harris? Do we think they're going to play? Do we think they're not? What's up?
Everything I'm seeing, Trey Harris is going. He's he's back this week, which is before he got injured. He was the leading wide receiver in the country and the number 1 receiver listed for NFL draft boards, and rightfully so. So he's back. And I don't know about Henry Parrish, but that's okay. Because, again, this is all about matchup. DJ Lagway has not faced a pass rush like he's going to face this week. His Florida offensive line has not faced a pass rush like they're going to face this week. Ole Miss, number 1 in the country in sacks and tackles for a loss. I've backed them multiple times this year, and they just live in the backfield. It's unbelievable. And they're also really good against the run. They're just really good defensively.
Yeah.
Where their biggest weakness is overall in the secondary. So if you can keep them away from your quarterback and give him time, there's some yards to be had down the field against this Ole Miss defense. That's the problem. People can't. There's just too many from Ole Miss that are coming at you. I mean, they've got 5 or 6, including from the linebacker position, inside pressure with Walter Nolan, outside pressure from both defensive ends, multiple linebackers that can rush the passer as well. They've got one corner who's arguably one of the best corners in the country who transferred in from Alabama, and Trey Amos. A lot of people have talked about how he might be first-team All-SEC corner this year for how well he's played at Ole Miss this year. So I just don't think that Lagway has seen what he's going to see yet overall from this defense. And matchup-wise, again, Ole Miss is number 2 in the country in explosive plays. 20 yards of plays of 20 yards or more. Florida's 125th in the country giving that up. You know Ole Miss, especially now with Trey Harris back, they're going to push the ball down the field. They're going to take shots. And when Texas played Florida, I know that Florida's third-string quarterback played, so I don't care what Florida did on offense. But on defense, Texas had a significant amount of plays that went a lot of yak, a lot of yards after the catch, a lot of 20-plus yard explosive plays. I think that is very similar to what you'll see in this game, but Jackson Dart can at least run the ball, too, from the quarterback position. So Florida's defensive line got a lot of pressure on LSU last game, surprisingly, because Florida defensive line-wise this year has not been a team that really gets after the quarterback a ton, and they did. I think they had like 6 sacks against LSU. And we all know Nussmeier's a statue. He's a pocket passing quarterback. That's what he is. That's not what Jackson Dart is.
Yeah.
And I don't believe Lane Kiffin is going to allow Dart to just stand back there and be a statue and get hit. Also, too, Ole Miss coming off a bye. And you want to talk about scheduling imbalance. Ole Miss is off a bye, okay? Florida just played Georgia, Texas, and LSU back to back to back. And now they're playing Ole Miss.
Yep.
I think that wears and tears on them. I do think Billy Napier and Florida are absolutely heading in the right direction. I love the young players that they've got that you've already mentioned in Lagway and Jaden Ball, some of the receivers that they're going to have coming back next year. They are no doubt, stock is rising. I just think, man, that Ole Miss is one of the best football teams in the country, and I think they show it this week in the Swamp and take care of business and win by more than 9.5. I put them out last night on our live show. Ole Miss minus 9.5 was actually my first best bet I made of the week, so obviously I'm sticking with that.
Yeah, I think Florida might be getting just a little bit too much respect here for a win over LSU. And, I mean, we're not going to kid ourselves. LSU is not an elite team in the SEC this year.
Nope.
No matter how highly they've been ranked. And when they've played some of the teams we talked about earlier in this episode and in our live reaction episode to the college football playoff rankings, They played Texas A&M earlier this year. They lost by 13. They played by Georgia. They lost by 4. Played to Georgia. They lost by 14. They just played 2 weeks ago against Texas, who people are out there saying they're not any good, they're overrated, whatever. They lost by 32. So I just think they're getting a little too much respect. They're playing in the swamp. It's not a night game or anything like that. It's a noon kickoff. I love road teams at noon. So I like Ole Miss in this one with you. I just think, they just keep rolling. Like you mentioned, it's a spot game that coming off a bye. Plus, you got Florida State next week. I know you're really trying to get bowl eligible, but you got to be thinking in the back of your mind, like, Florida State sucks this year. We can get that one next week. We can get that bowl game, get 6-6.
And I don't think Lagway's still 100% with that hamstring.
Yeah.
All the talk that I've heard is that, I mean, he's good enough to play, but he's not good enough, like even against LSU. He wasn't sitting there just using his legs a ton in the run game against LSU. Again, I think he's good enough to where he can run a little, but he's going to have to run a lot in this game. I don't think Florida's offensive line is good enough to hold off Ole Miss's pass rush.
It's crazy how good he's been basically with 1.5 hamstrings probably.
Yeah. No, it really, dude, they're a great story, man. They really are. They may be one that we look back on here 3 or 4 years from now and say that they're one of the few teams that actually stuck with a coach when they should have, because everybody wants to fire him. And I'm not going to get off on a tangent here, but I'm just going to throw this out. Everybody wants to fire the guy, but in today's college football, where you've got the recruiting classes that are signing in early December and the transfer portal windows being limited to what not as many windows as there used to be, if you fire a coach, the coaches you're going to want to go hire are in postseason contention across college football. Yep. They're not leaving, like everybody's talking about Lane Kiffin possibly to Florida. Lane Kiffin wasn't leaving Ole Miss in the middle of a playoff national championship run to go coach Florida. That's not going to happen. That was never going to happen. And any of your other teams, like coaches like that's what you're looking at if you did that. And you would set your program back even further. Like, what coach would want to come take over a roster that, okay, you fire Billy Napier in November. Almost every player on this roster would leave. And the new coach would be coming in, wouldn't be able to recruit, wouldn't be able to reload in the transfer portal, and would have a trash roster that he'd be taking over. So I think Florida made the right decision at this point. Yeah. I do think Florida's on the right track. I just don't think they match up well with Ole Miss.